Welcome to Riftbound, and in today's video, we are going to boil down the anatomy of a Riftbound card. Now, this is going to be great for beginners and those that are just getting into Riftbound, and anybody who just wants to learn more about what the card actually means and what all those numbers and letters represent. We're going to start at the top of the card and work our way down. So in the top left-hand corner here, we see this number 6. This is the energy cost. So this is how many runes you have to spend or exhaust if you want to play this card. So exhausting the runes just means you're rotating them sideways. They stay on the board. You just have to spend them so you can no longer use them because you have a set amount of runes each turn that you can use. And this is how many you need to exhaust to play this card. So in this case, I would have to exhaust 6 runes, and they can be any color when you're exhausting them. Now, some cards will have a little symbol underneath this energy cost, and that is the power cost. This represents the amount of runes and which color you need to recycle if you want to play this card. Now, recycling means that you take that rune and you put it at the bottom of your rune deck, so it is no longer on the board. So if you had 5 runes at the beginning of your turn and you want to play this card, you have to exhaust all 5 of them, so turn them all sideways, and then take one orange one and put it at the bottom of your rune deck. If we look at Daisy here as an example, we see the symbol twice, which means that you need to recycle 2 runes, but then it also shows that they could be yellow or green, which means you could recycle 2 green, 2 yellow, or 1 green and 1 yellow, whatever works best for you. Another important thing to note is that you do not have to recycle runes that you use to play the card. So what I mean by that is that here, if you're going to play Punch first, it only costs 1 energy to play. So you only need to exhaust 1 rune to play the card, but then you have to recycle 2. So you can recycle another rune that you previously spent on something else. Another thing to note is that you can recycle runes that are already exhausted, but you could also recycle a rune that was not exhausted yet if you had to. So if you only had 2 orange runes left on the board and you absolutely wanted to play this punch first, you could just recycle the 2 of them, even though you would have only spent 1 and 1 of them would still be ready. Obviously, you want to try to recycle the ones that you have already spent because then you have more runes available if you want to play other cards, but sometimes you just end up in a situation and you do what you gotta do. Moving to the top right-hand corner of the card, if you see a number here, that is the might. Now, just like some cards have a recycle cost, some cards don't, only units will have might, and we'll get into that a little bit more later, but the might essentially represents the health and the damage. Now, what I mean by that is if we look at this Adaptatron with 3 might, that means that at its core, this unit will have 3 health, so 3 HP, but it also deals out 3 damage. So if you engage in a combat, your guy here will have 3 health and deal out 3 damage. Other cards can modify this might, change it, reduce it, increase it, and there's a lot of different things that go into play, and we'll make another video about might specifically and what that means, especially for Riftbound. But at the base, at its core, think of it as the HP, so the health, and also the damage that the unit can deal out. Now we're moving down on the card. So take a moment and enjoy the beautiful art of your card, and then look just below it. And we have the bar that has the tags. So the first tag that we're going to look at is the one that's always on the left that has a little symbol with it. And this is the main type of your card. So there's a couple of different options what we can have. We can have a unit like you see here. You can also have a champion unit, and you'll notice that this time the symbol and the border here is gold versus for the unit, it was only silver. Now the champion units are a little bit more important and generally a little bit more powerful than the regular units because in order to play your deck, you need a legend and a matching champion unit. So if you wanted to play this Ari, you would need the Ari legend. So this is the Ari legend, and you can see it has the legend tag and the little symbol next to it is slightly different. Now we can do a little bit more of a how to play a Riftbound video if you don't know those kind of details, but just consider that this is your legend and you also have to have a champion unit, which is different from the regular unit, but you can look at the tags and tell which is which. Now so far, the champion units and the legends have all been characters from League of Legends, but that might differ in the future, and the regular units are just supporting characters or things within the world. Another tag that you could have here in this first key tag section is spell. So this is not a unit, and you can look at that top right-hand corner and you can see that it does not have might, because the units have the might to represent their health, as we discussed, and a spell wouldn't have health in the same way. The spells are going to do something. Another type of card that you can have is a gear. So the gears usually stay on the board versus a unit, you play it, it can go into combat, it could die, it could stay forever, kind of depends what's up. And the spells are usually a one and done. You're just playing a spell to draw a card, you're playing a spell to deal 5 damage, whatever it might be. But the gears, you kind of play them and then they stay out on the field. Another option for a tag that you could have in the spot is for the runes. So they have their own tag, just so you know they're a rune. Another tag you can see is token. So you can have the token unit like you've got here. And you'll notice that the unit itself is gray. So all of the other units I was showing you, like the Ari being green, etc., those are your colors or your domain of your deck. And I have a whole video about domains if you're interested. But here, the tokens are gray because anybody can use a token. Any deck can have a card that says make a token, make a recruit, make a mech, a sprite, all these different types of tokens. And you just need to play them in your deck, so they're just gray. They go in every single deck, every domain, you don't need to worry about it. Here as an example, you can see the gold is a token gear. Now this is important just because some cards might say if you control a certain amount of gear, you can do XYZ thing. Or if you have this many units or whatever it may be. So these things count as units, they count as gear, etc. Even if they're tokens, they still count. So that's why they still have these tags, and it's important just to differentiate what they are and not just be nothing. The only one that doesn't really have a tag is the buff, but that's just because you're putting it just to indicate to yourself that your unit has a buff. You don't technically have to use the actual buff card within Riftbound. Some people put a dice, some people put a little counter, some people make their own, whatever you want to do. Now, there are other tags besides that main tag, and these ones are in black instead of being in the color of your card. So if we look at our Plundering Poro here, he has 3 different tags associated to him aside from being a unit. Now, he's got Bilgewater, Poro, and Pirate. These don't necessarily need to mean anything to you. Like, you don't need to know what Bilgewater is. It's technically a place. So a lot of them will have tags that are locations where they're from within the world of Runeterra, like Noxus, Ionia, etc. Then Poro is kind of like his thing. Poros are like almost like a little animal. Imagine some of them say dog, some of them say cat, bird, etc. And then Pirate is because he looks like a pirate. Obviously, we all know what pirates are. You might be asking yourself, why do I care about these tags? But that is because there are other cards in the game that have effects based on the tags. So as an example, I play a lot of Ivern, and Ivern loves the Poros, dogs, cats, and birds. So my brush, my little Ivern brush, says that all Poros, dogs, cats, and birds get +1 might. So you need to know if the thing you have is a Poro, dog, cat, or bird. One part about this is that it becomes really scalable and buildable for your cards. So right now, pirates don't necessarily have any cards that synergize with them. But that doesn't mean that in the next set, pirates won't be super, super good and there'll be a card that says, all your pirates do twice as much damage. Who knows, right? So if the Plundering Poro has literally never been played in any deck, but all of a sudden pirates are great, he becomes super valuable and useful. Right below the tags, we have the name and the domain of the card. Now, every single card is going to have some sort of tag, even if it's just a spell or a gear, etc. And then every single card is also going to have a name and a color or a domain. This is important because each legend has 2 different domains, so 2 different colors. As an example, Ivern is green and yellow, which means that you can only play green or yellow cards in your deck, so you need to know which domain or which color this card falls under. And then the name is also important because you're only allowed to have 3 copies of the same card in your deck. So you could have 3 Eclipse Heralds in your deck, and that's why the name is important. Now, there's only 2 types of cards that can have 2 colors or 2 domains. Everything else just has the 1. So the legends have their 2 domains, and that means that if you are playing this Ivern legend, you have to have your Ivern champion unit. It can be either the green one or the yellow one. And then all of the cards in your deck have to be either green or yellow, as a sort of quick recap. The other type of cards that can have 2 colors are all of the signatures. Now, I don't mean the signed cards. I mean either the signature spell, like you can see here for Lilia, which is going to be green and blue. You can have a signature unit like Shadow here. So this is Vex's signature unit. You can also have signature gears. So here we have the Forge Fire Cape, which is Ornn's signature gear. Now you may be asking yourself, well, okay, if this is Ornn's signature gear, does that mean that only Ornn can use it? And the answer to that is no, because the important thing to remember is that the Riftbound deck has to consist of a legend, which has 2 domains, a chosen champion unit that matches your legend, and then cards that fit within those 2 domains. So if you have a blue blue and green legend like Ornn, you can play all the blue and green cards, as well as cards that are blue and green in the same card, like the signature gear. So you can take your Ahri legend here, who is green and blue, and play that Forge Fire cape if you wanted to. There are no restrictions around it having to be tied to Ornn specifically, or tied to the name of the legend, as long as it matches the colors of the domains. This means that as time goes on and we get more and more legends, more signature spells, units, and gears, you'll be able to have even more crazy combinations based on all of these different options that are going to be available to us. Now, just below the name of your card, you can notice a symbol here, and this is the flow symbol. So in the body of the text of the card, you see it does say flow 3 in green, but the symbol is on the side to make it easier to spot when it's in your trash. This is a new addition of a mechanic in Vendetta, and it says flow, you can play this card from your trash. So having that symbol there makes it a little bit easier to spot if you're looking through your trash to see which cards you could play, or if you're looking at your opponent's trash to see which cards they could play without having to memorize every single card and read through the text of every single card possible. You can flip through and look for the symbol, so it makes it a little bit easier. Right below this and right below the name of our card, we have what does the card actually do, the actual body of text that describes this card to you. Now this can vary, and we'll do another video in depth of all these different keywords like reaction, action, empower, all these different things. But essentially, this part of the card just tells you what does the card do and how can you play it. Now, as an example here with discipline, it says it's reaction, and then it says give a unit +2 might this turn and draw 1. So if you play this spell, you're giving a unit +2 this turn and drawing 1. Sometimes the text can be situational. As an example here for our petty officer, it says just assault +1 while I'm an attacker. So if you just have the petty officer sitting in your base or defending on your battlefield, the assault doesn't matter. It's only situational to when I am an attacker. Very rarely, the cards just say nothing. They have no special ability. This is just 5 cost, 5 might. Underneath the box for the abilities of your card, we have the flavor text. Now the flavor text doesn't do anything for your gameplay. It's just for fun and to add some personality and some flavor to your card. This is an Ionian riddle that says, I have a crown but no throne, many followers but no subjects. Who am I? And apparently the answer to the riddle is a flower because it's got a crown and many bees following around. We've got Lilia's flavor text, which says, nothing cries louder than loneliness. All right, Lilia, go off. And often for the champion units, their little flavor text will be their catchphrase from in the game League of Legends, like Jinx when she says, rules are made to be broken, like buildings or people. In the bottom left-hand corner, you have the set, name, and then the number of the card. So for OGN, as an example, that's Origins. Each set gets its own little 3-letter code so you can know which set the card came from. And then you get a number. So this is 141 out of 298, which means that there's 298 standard cards in the set, and this is number 141. So if you're looking for it when you're sorting your cards, you'll know exactly where it is, or you're looking for it online, you know exactly what you're looking for, or if you're trying to buy it, you can make sure you get the right card. Because as an example, Jinx, what if eventually we end up with 6 different Jinx champion units? You need to know the exact one you're looking for, and that's a great way of figuring it out. There's 2 different special types of numbering. You can have the over numbers like this, where Azir here is 247 out of 221. So he's a special over number art. So it's basically the same Azir legend, but it's got special art to it, so that's why it has the over number. You can also see an A. So here we have that Akali is 021A, which means this is the same card as 021 or number 21, but it's an alternate art. So it's not the same as the over number, which is a different rarity altogether. It's just the alternate art for that same 021 card. Right down there in the middle, you have the rarity symbol. There's a bunch of different rarities that it can have. This one, as an example, is an uncommon. And I do have an entire video about the different rarities of the cards on my channel if that's something you're interested in. But this just tells you basically how rare is the card to get. Is it just a common that you see all the time? Or is it an epic, crazy rare card that you'd never see? Numbers and the sets and the rarity at the bottom here don't have any effect in gameplay. It doesn't matter if a card's common, you can still have 3 copies. If it's epic, you can have 3 copies. None of these things matter for your actual deck building and your gameplay. It's more for your collection and for your sort of booster packs, opening them, what you're going to get in the packs, things like that. So that's really where that comes into play, your own organization, your own collection, and less in the actual gameplay. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have the artist and the studio. So as an example here, this is a really beautiful card in Vendetta, the Jace, and this is artist is Stella Chen Yui, and then in 2026, RGI, which I'm assuming is the name of the studio, or the company sort of that produced it. So they do take all kinds of different art from different sources, different artists. Some art is from the game League of Legends, We've got some Wild Rift art. They've taken some Legends of Runeterra art and just all different things from within their universe. This is very reminiscent of Arcane, the TV show, and they just credit obviously the artist who did the art of the card. The last thing you see at the very bottom right-hand corner is the symbol for the rune or the domain or the color, however you want to call it, that is associated to this card. So in case for some reason it wasn't clear, you can always look down there and see, or if you're like, oh wait, is this orange and red or orange and yellow? You can just look down in the corner and see the actual symbol because all of the runes have a different symbol as well as a color. So you can make sure you look at the color and symbol and that you know exactly what card you're dealing with if ever you needed it. So that is the entire anatomy of a Riftbound card from top to bottom and everything you would need to know about the card. If you like this video and you enjoy beginner guides or you're getting into Riftbound, you want to see more awesome cards, fun events, and things like that, make sure you subscribe and like this video for more. We post all kinds of beginner-friendly guides on this channel, as well as just fun things, Nexus Night vlogs, playing the games, pretty cards, everything you could ask for. So subscribe for more, and thank you for watching the video.